Kathy, I'm going to turn it over to you because Dr. Angela Bush is, just a superstar in her ability to do what she did at Erwin Middle School. So if you'd talk a little bit about that example before we go into small groups, I think that has set the stage really nicely.
Absolutely. And I think the story of the elephant and the rider fits perfectly here. And many of the relationships I have with administrators, the first thing they talk about is people and culture as being a barrier to alignment, even if they have a strategic direction. So one of the things that Angela did really well was she was looking at how do we value the people? How do we value our partners? Our partners are our parents. Our partners are our teachers. Our partners are our community. And she began to take a deeper dive looking at, through survey work and as well as through just looking at some of the interactions when people walked into a building and what were the perceptions of family. As she began to have ongoing two-way feedback around that, she was able to provide some support and use some of the tactics to increase the quality of the service that was occurring, which helped clear the path for building trust with those families. And then as she started to build trust with those families, which I think is even more powerful, she began to make the same kinds of connections with the community. And the community began to embrace the school as a whole and come in and support teachers and staff with recognition and with being active partners throughout the process. What she noticed along the way is it was really important to have these short cycle checks to see if they were staying on track. And as they started to do that, and as they started to be more intentional around family engagement, they realized they were able to accelerate their progress there and have a collective and a shared ownership over that process. So another thing that helped tie that all together, Holly, if you want to go to that next slide, is more of that strategy where we have a single scorecard that represents a student success pillar. And you can see clearly we have some clear goals and we have some clear actions. And again, it's about this idea of being intentional over time and being able to visibly see, are we making progress? What's getting in the way? And deploying staff and getting the right team members together, actively seeking voices of students, counselors, teachers throughout this whole process. Because one of the parts of alignment, when you think about the word value, there's the values and the beliefs that we have, but it's also about valuing people who are closest to problems, people that can contribute to help solving the problems. And then over time, that created this collective ownership. Janet talked about that flywheel of building inspiring workplaces. People feel inspired when they start to see that they're making a difference. And the use of a single pillar scorecard like this becomes a visible dashboard where they can begin to see that and believe that. So how does that play out over time? I'd like to share a couple stories with you so that you can actually see some impact data. So when I met Erwin Middle School and Dr. Angela Bush, their baseline data for being a comprehensive school improvement school was at 61, which was a D. After the first year working with them, a year and a half, they began to accelerate the results through that idea of alignment and about values and valuing people and creating their own sense of who they were. By 2022, they had accelerated the results to a 70, which was a C, which removed them from the comprehensive school improvement list. And it was really through the efforts of shared ownership and having an improvement team that drove the work, but then cascading that work across the school and seeking voices from everyone, including the students. So they were able to generate things like a student pep rally that became one of the most popular events. She was able to increase parent participation from few numbers to over 300 in their parent night at a school that typically didn't have a whole lot of engagement. And then the work with chronic absenteeism. So if you can imagine, they're aligning their values, they're aligning their strategic focus. So everybody's working in the same direction. One of the biggest barriers is chronic absenteeism and lost kids that are enrolled but not showing up. In the fall of 2022, they were looking at a 26% chronic absenteeism rate. that leadership team began to look at ways that they could engage students through through campaigns of calling home visits. But what really made a huge difference was they began to create mentorship programs where each student that was at risk had an adult sponsor. They were able to participate in programs for girls called the AIRI program, and programs for boys called the Mentoring Men program. And they were able to learn some of those self-regulation skills, a self-accountability system, but also with support. And then they were also able to develop a peer helper program where they got peer students within the school that were willing to tutor and help other students. So when we think of alignment, sometimes we're thinking of the goal and following the goal along a straight line. But a lot of what happens is there's sort of multiple paths that help strengthen the school's ability to really accelerate and align quicker to that outcome. And a lot of it happened around culture. How did they build that culture and belief and that connected process? And then finally, at the end of the year, they were able to reduce their student chronic absenteeism rate to 6%. It was the lowest in the entire district, which was pretty impressive. Out of all of those schools in Jefferson County, they had the lowest chronic absenteeism rate.
That's great. So, I mean, outstanding results from Angela Bush's team, Erwin Middle School. You know, really a school, you all, that, you know, was at the lowest of low, right, Kathy? You know,
Yes.
and is now, I mean, really looking at a model in terms of what they're able to provide. So that just shows. Well, I love, Kathy, what you said. It is about alignment, because you can see very specific alignment strategies and leading metrics, stop lighting those metrics and having discussions about those. And it's what Angela did to build relationships and trust with her team members, her teachers and staff, as well as the parents and family in the community, that really brought the pieces together. And that's why when we're thinking about how we build alignment, it's all of what we've been talking about. Every principle that we talk about goes into Principle 7, and Principle 7 is where, to me, the rubber meets the road if we're going to really get the results. So that's the tee up. Thank you, Kathy, for doing that and sharing that story with us.